Uh, it's probably in the subtitle somewhere, right?
Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis, and you are watching Conversations in Pop Culture. And yes, I am skinless like an Ashley. And I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Pocket Jack Comics. And they are coming into comic shops, and there's some very nice covers coming in March. So go check out what they're doing at pocketjackcomics.com, as well as my good friends right now have a Kickstarter, Living Dead Girl, which is Jason Connolly and Greg Bo Watson. And for those who are big Marvel fans, Greg Bo kind of started in Marvel, and this is his first time creating a character in 20 years. So obviously those are really two projects by some of my friends, and I just want to give them a quick shout out. But enough about that, because I have with me voice actor, director, sound engineer, ADR expert, Charlie Campbell. So welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I am very excited because obviously I know some of your main roles. Obviously, One Piece, Fujitora is a big one. Gran Torino is another one. Arturos from Restaurant from Another World is another great one. Professor Big Gelato, which is just an amazing show. That whole show is just brilliant. And then some other stuff as well. But obviously we're gonna get into some of the big roles in a second or here too. But you've been doing this, I think, for 30 plus years at this point.
My first dip in was around 1995. ADV Films that did Evangelion and all those shows back in those days had just opened up their first recording studio, and I had not auditioned. I was actually interning with a company that they were using after hours to record stuff, and got to know Matt Greenfield and a lot of the other guys there. And when they opened up their first studio, I was on board. So it's kind of been a lot of fun ever since,
Yeah, let's actually talk about that because you came in a little bit differently than a lot of other people, I think. Or you came in more as a sound engineer, moving the soundboards around, definitely audio mixing, and you were kind of in the Wild West a little bit,
Oh,
figuring it
yeah.
all out, knowing what you were doing, maybe not knowing what you're doing, and kind of bringing anime, what I feel, to America to some degree as far as dubbing. And so
Mhm.
what was that like? Because this was a very different world than it is today.
Yeah, it really was. And funnily enough, there were a lot more companies in the game too, all over the place, just smaller, peppered through Canada and the US and elsewhere. But I kind of got in on it via music of all things, because I've been multi-tracking and playing guitar, bass, drums, keyboards, and all since I was 10 years old. So the audio was the easy part for me. When I kind of fell in with doing anime, I've always liked cartoons and sci-fi and everything like that. So it was a good fit. And I've always done crazy voices, imitated my teachers, never got in trouble. They never caught me. They knew who it was. And just had fun with everything. And back then, I did engineering for quite a while, and then moved to Austin, to Monster Island, their satellite studio, and there started directing. And I was doing video extras and doing music for the trailers. I was directing and engineering and writing some all at the same time. Although I did have Elena Carrillo, who was a fantastic writer, and Lowell Bartholomew and some of the people who were in some of the other studios there. And it was a while. It was a lot of fun too.
Yeah, so let's actually talk about one of the first ones that you were kind of behind and doing some fun stuff with. And it's a little bit out of the box, but it's this little bad boy
Oh
here.
yeah, God, I love that show. Yeah, actually, if you listen to it till the end, the English credits come up, and that's me and Paul Killam jamming out to our original Gamera theme song, closing credit. You know? But yeah, that was a blast, because I grew up with Ultraman and Godzilla and everything like that. I'd never really seen too much of Gamera. I think there might have been one movie out there that came to Houston when I was a kid on TV, but it was all in the same vein. So show me a monster movie, and I love doing live action dubs like that too, because to me, especially now, it's an extra challenge, but also in some ways it's a little bit easier because you're looking at an actual person's face, and so you can take a lot of emotional cues off of that. And it's kind of rewarding if you can get it to look pretty good, and go, hey, did they really say that? It's kind of fun.
So I really enjoyed this movie. because I view this as just a kaiju epic movie. It's
Hmm.
kind of like the old Godzilla stuff. I just saw Shin Kamen Rider. I saw Shin Ultraman. I'm
Yeah,
super stoked to eventually get around to seeing Shin Godzilla. And I love these movies because they're easy. I
yeah,
don't take them too seriously. It's kind of a nice movie you could chill out to. You pour yourself a nice little strong drink and then you just veg out.
yeah,
And it's great. And honestly, I'll put this thing up against a Godzilla movie because I think like the money shots in this movie are
oh, yeah.
fantastic. And
Really
like, what is
special.
that like for you? Because you get to live the dream.
Oh, it's crazy because there have been more than a few uh, anime and more than a few live actions that I've been able to be a part of that I actually grew up watching. So, Gamera kind of by way of Godzilla. I got to play a character in the dub of Shin Godzilla as well as Shin Ultraman. Then just fairly recently, I got to play Ultraman Ace in the Ultraman Z series. It's actually out right now. You can find it on YouTube and elsewhere, I think. So that was really crazy. And then, the Owl and Sonic the Hedgehog. Um, I got to work on Gotcha Man, which was G-Force Battle of the Planets when I was growing up. And so I got to direct that and play that character right there, Leader X. Yes, it's a lot of special effects, and it's just been really crazy. In fact, the craziest thing recently has been the Sonic the Hedgehog the movie, which was the animated movie from Japan. It was just kind of a one-shot show where he fights Metal Sonic, and we had fun with it, and we recorded it, and then it went away, and that's the last we heard of it until like 3 or 4 years ago, I'm at conventions and people are like, "Oh my God, you're the owl." Well, I certainly am. And
Oh,
I'm
I
like,
love,
you know this? And they're like, I
I
grew up with
love,
that.
I love Sonic the Hedgehog. And for the 30th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog, I got to interview Ian Flynn on that day. And the mistake I made was that I should have reached out to Lisa Ortiz and Colin O'Shaughnessy because I've had both of them on my show also. And I think I would have broke a good friend of mine who joined me for that, who I made his whole entire year because he's a big Sonic the Hedgehog fan. So it was a very cool moment. But you
Mm,
know, I love Sonic the Hedgehog. The last game was rough for me though. I didn't get it. I didn't get the last game completely. I tried playing it, but I
right.
digress. But Adventure 2 is the best. Adventure 2 is the best. It's so good. But I'm excited for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie. Oh, it's gonna be epic. But I'm a big kid. What can I say?
Oh yeah. So am I.
But
Yeah.
but but even going further into this too, because obviously you did Gotchaman and you were Leader X, and
Oh,
that was like 105 episodes, right?
that was so much fun. And especially, I got to cast just about every director that was at ADV at the time, as some crazy bad guy in an episode because there were so many just, they all looked like crazy wrestlers or something, and they were totally bizarre and funny. So we had a lot of fun with the voices. And the neatest thing was one of the neat things is Berg Katze, who's the guy with the long ears, the bad guy, I said, I got to get somebody really good for that. Who do I want to call up? So I called up Ed Neal, who I'd done a lot of other shows with, who was the original hitchhiker in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He's the, hey, let me take your picture guy. And he played Bert Katze with I thought he was fantastic. He was just wacky, and you could believe that that character would sound that way, and just a lot of fun to work with. And if you end up being able to find the DVDs or the extras were great. We did Kira Vincent Davis had written a song for one of the episodes where her character was in a booth singing something, and we didn't have a translation, so I re-recorded everything and put some Gotcha Man music in there, and she sang it. She was really good, and that's actually an extra, a video extra. And then we have Ed and Geraldo and Brian Jepson and Lucy Christian and all. We all met at my dad's hangar. He was flying a Cessna at the time, and Ken flies around in a plane, and so we did a video extra where we're all, the plane comes in and we all have a big visit about the show and kind of cut up. But yeah, it was so much fun. I think it took us 2 years and some change to get through all the episodes. and we kept it 1970s jargon because it was obviously they're wearing bell bottoms and stuff, and it's the original animation. So hey, groovy man, and whoa, and oh, that was so much fun. Everybody still talks about it that I worked with. They're like, oh, that was great, and George Manley doing the Gotcha Man narration. So
So what is this like? Because obviously I know Gotcha Man, and I'm 31, so I am an old school anime fan that goes backwards, I go forwards at the same time.
yeah,
But I don't know all these extras, and so but like I've seen parts of Gotcha Man. I really enjoy what I've seen, but it's not something like I'm actively searching for. But I know that it is a fundamental anime that kind of was part of that wave that broke open up the doors.
yeah, it really was, especially American audiences, because I didn't know it was anime when I was a kid. I just thought it was a cool cartoon. There was that and Star Blazers, and seemed like there was one other one that would. Oh, well, Speed Racer, of course. It's really one of the first. And then they used to have these Shogun Warrior toys that were these big robots, and it was actually Kaiser is the show. Like now, and I got to direct Kaiser. I said, I played with that toy. What are the chances? So I'd already had some personal experience with some of these shows and characters, and didn't even know I was getting it at the time, and then turned out to be really helpful directing them and having fun with them.
And then even talking about that, because and diving into the directing side, because you're not necessarily changing anything in the anime, but
No.
you are voice directing, you are giving emotion, you are giving direction to people. And what is that like? Because I think it's very different, and I think some people understand it in the anime world and some people don't who are fans, that when you're in the booth, hopefully your director knows maybe 5 episodes what's going to happen in advance, or they
Mm,
have an idea where the show's going, and they're really giving that voice actor cues and understanding of what is needed. Because I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of these people say, cool, I don't know what's going to happen next, and
mhm.
that's kind of your job as a director to say, I kind of have a map for the next 20 episodes.
Right. And personally, depending on the show, but more often than not, I'll give some direction as to what's going on at the time and maybe a little bit before. But I find it more rewarding when it's a surprise to the actor what happens next. And sometimes, especially in some of the horror titles, that's turned out to be really useful because, uh, I think the best story I can think of was Devilman Lady, a series that we did back in Monster Island. Camille Chen, who is like a fantastic actress, she's been in so many TV shows now, and I see her in commercials. Like, hey, it's Camille again. But really, really great. And she ended up playing one of the young girls in the show, and she came in for an audition. And there's a lot about I don't know 10 or 12 people waiting out in the front room, and then she goes in, and I set it up for her, and I say, okay, here's what's going to happen. You're in your bedroom in your house, and this monster comes out of the ceiling, and you start screaming, and you run down the hall, run down the stairs, and then when you get down to where your dad's sitting in an easy chair, you shake him, and something scary happens there. So it's mostly just screaming and Foley and stuff. So I said, well, let's give it a try and be as loud as you want because I'm on the mic volume and everything, and it won't be a problem. And had a really good booth. So the scene gets going. I'm recording her for the audition, and she is really intense and like is screaming when she's coming down the stairs. And then when she shakes her dad, his head tilts back, and he's got all these worms coming out of his face, and she starts, and chills went up my back, and I'm like, wow, that was really good. She said, I was really scared. It was so good. Everybody stopped what they were doing and was like, what is going on? And I ended up being able to use it for the actual take for the show. So I try to keep people in the moment, and then beyond acting ability, I think it's really important. I mean, if you look at an episode of a show or a show as a piece of music, okay, it's already been written, right? You want to stay as faithful as you can to the original, um, you know, arrangement of the music of the show. But it's up to you to choose who plays the instruments, right? And that's how I look at casting. I'm like, who plays this instrument that's needed? Who's the right guitar player? Who's the right bass player? Who's the right drummer for this song? And if you put it all together, whether it's a performance of acting or if it's a musical performance, and none of the instruments sound out of place, then you've picked the right ones, you know? And that's how I use my musical experience for the acting and everything. To me, it's very much the same. You know, you should be able to close your eyes, and if the show has enough of a story, of course, just listen to it and enjoy it like it was a radio show, you know, as much as look at it. But if too much, if you're leaning on the visuals too much, or the lines, which could be great, you know, if you don't have the right actor, then it might be all right, but it wouldn't be as good as it could have been, you know. So casting's a big deal, you know.
That's so interesting. I would never have thought of it that way. And I mean, I love watching anime. I love reading manga, and I know when something sounds good,
Hmm.
and I know when it's done right, and I know when it's done bad. I mean, it's a lot easier to find if it's bad. It's
Right.
it's easy. It's I know when a show is okay, but I also know, oh my god, that person is perfect for that role.
Hmm.
And like there are people, that you or me. Hopefully, it's not me.
Um, I don't think it was me, either that or I just had an idea. You never know.
But that's what I was saying. I'm just making sure there's not a fire in my house. That's
Oh,
all I'm making sure. Trust me, I'll bring the laptop with me. But
right.
but I guess where I'm going with this is that that's just so interesting because I would have never thought of it that way. Is my
Mhm.
point, but I guess it makes sense. I mean, you just like enlightened me into a whole new level. Like,
Well, and, you know, like there's this show my wife likes watching on Netflix. It's a dubbed show from Spain. I can't remember what it's called, but it's not really my cup of tea. And she's from England, which is funny. So, but I've sat in and looked a little bit of it, you know, watched it some. And while the dub isn't perfect on their mouth sync and everything, it's not bad. But they've chosen such good actors to play the parts of the characters. You know, the voice matches the physicality, it matches the age, they're good actors, and so I found that I didn't really have a hard time watching it as much as I would have had if it was, "Oh, those mouths are dead on, but who is that?" You know? It's like, well, so again, you know, whether it's live action, anime, or music, you know, you gotta have the right performers, basically.
and now, I really want to get into some of your roles though, because obviously I want to take a break from the Wild West of anime.
Yeah.
You have a massive directing career, you have a massive engineering career, and then you have a bunch of roles that you've done. And the stuff I want to talk about is that you've played a bunch of kings. Is what
Oh,
you've done. It sounds weird, but I think you played Gilgamesh in Tower of Duraga. I think
yeah,
you played a king in Overlord. I think you've played a like Attack on Titan.
yeah.
For this guy right here, he's technically not a real king, but we're gonna count it. Technically. So I have to ruin that for everybody. I think you've played some other stuff and some other kings, like in a
Oh, yeah,
Rogue Hero. So like, I
yeah.
mean, how did this come back? Because I think you played like 10. I think it's up to 10 now.
Yeah, I mean, it never surprises me. Many times I'm called in by, you know, whether it's Crunchyroll or a different company that I've worked with before, and I won't even sometimes won't even know what character I'm playing. They'll just call me in and say, "Here's the guy," you know, and let's see what voice you want, and then so I'll read a few lines, and ended up getting a lot of kings, um, a lot of kind of teacher types as well. Um, oh, hang on just a moment. Let me get this back up. Let me just do a quick deal here. One small second.
Take your time.
Uh, that's my wife pinging. There we go.
Well, there's
Texting's
not a fire in my house. I'm
no.
good.
But yeah, a lot of senseis, you know, and a lot of old wizardy guys. But I love doing the kings, and uh, they'll just come in and I'll say, "Do you want him old and regal, or a little bit younger, a little tougher, or really old and confused?" It just depends on what they want. And usually after the two or three, they're like, "Ah, yep, that's the one," and we'll go with that. But I love playing all different kinds of characters. I really like playing cartoony characters, I call them, with wacky voices, because they don't show up quite as often, as your stereotypes, and so that's super fun. For instance, when did the owl and Sonic the Hedgehog, he looked really like absent-minded and had these little squirrely things going on in his glasses, so he, is kind of confused. And so, "Hello, Sonic. Oh, it's good to see you. I think I don't know." It's fun to, and I always just look at the physicality of the character and their what I would imagine would come out of a small little body and a crazy old guy, or a bigger guy, just depends kind of what they look like, and I just have a blast with it.
So I do want to talk about this king stuff because a lot of animes have kings, and it must be a lot of fun for you
Yeah.
because there might be one or two or three episodes with that king. The king's not really the main focus. They have a moment or two. Maybe they have 4 minutes in a complete
Yeah.
series,
Yeah.
but you're still in that series. So it's like you get to be in Overlord, you get to be in, the Tower series, you get to be in Attack on
Mhm.
Titan for a few seconds, and it's kind of fun when you're in a world in and out to some degree.
Yeah.
And some of these shows are really popular, and they feel like, oh yeah, Charles Campbell's in that anime too, and it's just like cool bucket list checked off to some degree. It's like, but like you don't have any commitment to it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And well, I mean, the bigger characters obviously take longer to record, and I can't record most usually until after 4 o'clock, so that it takes longer to get so many hours after hours comparatively. So I think I do get a lot of wacky and king guys and this, that, and the other, but then also get some bigger fun characters like the
yeah,
ones
we're
like.
gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about that, but I want to talk about a few more before we get to the big ones.
Mhm.
There's like 4 or 5 big ones that you've done. And I do want to talk about obviously Jacob from Spice and Wolf because I love Spice and Wolf.
Oh
And
yeah. Yeah.
I just like him because he was sort of a supporting character, but he was a bigger role, but he wasn't in the whole series. He was in it for like the last like 4 episodes, I think, of season one, give or take.
Right.
And he does have a massive role to some degree in Lawrence's pivot and the negotiations. And this is kind of, I wouldn't say it's a king role, but it's kind of a supportive, fun, generous role to some degree that this character is. And I think it's a little bit off the beaten track for you slightly.
Yeah, and I like it when I get a chance to do a character like him, and uh, also characters like some of the other shows where it's not the stereotypical thing, because it gives me a chance to have a little more depth to the performance and to the character. He's not either just running around yelling or this, that, and the other. He has something to say and is an integral part of the show. So many times too, I get roles that are not overplayed. They would say, make this a little more realistic, and so I enjoy things like that, and especially like fathers and characters like that don't need to be over the top all the time.
Yeah, and then speaking about that too, obviously, there's a few others that you've done that I also think are kind of in that vein too. And this is another one of those roles.
Oh yeah, he is so much fun. That was such a weird show, but he really enjoys his food.
It's a brilliant show. It's a brilliant show because what is it? Only two main characters, and every other character is like a cameo in that show. It's the weirdest thing ever.
It's so weird.
But it's great. It's great. The whole premise of that show is just out there, and it's like it's the type of show though that like just is calming. It has such a calming effect on
Yeah,
me,
that it was.
and then
It's like,
I get hungry
yeah.
after I watch it, and it's terrible.
What bowl of soup are we talking about today? It's just like, what? But it was actually a whole lot of fun to record. On paper, it looks like, what is this? But Yeah, I really I really enjoyed that character for some crazy reason.
And then I want to talk about this, but before we talk about this,
Oh yeah. Yeah, you poosers. Yeah, Kilowog, man, that was so much fun. DC Universe Online. Uh, they were recording in Austin at the time, and probably other places as well. But getting to play Kilowog, and then I think I played some Ultron robots or something. But Kilowog was a blast, and now I can actually go on like YouTube and find gameplay and hear myself here and there. That and also in Smite, I played Ymir, which is this big ice giant guy. So
what
yeah,
is that like? Because obviously that's a Green Lantern power battery. It is a 1-to-1 scale. In
that's
case I
cool.
need it, in case I need it, guys. I spent way too much money on it too, but it's totally worth it. It lights
That's
up if you have the ring, and I do have the
cool.
ring. I forgot to
Oh.
bring it. It would have been great if I just like started doing it. Oh, it's great. I bought it because of Sheldon from Big Bang. He
Mhm.
has one, and it's great. So, but what is this like? Because Green Lanterns are like DC. It's pretty big. People love the Green Lantern, not the movie. Not the movie. The movie was rough. Okay, it's not Ryan Reynolds' best work, and I'm
Right.
saying that very generously. He would agree. He would agree.
I liked the movie because I like Green Lantern characters, and it was the only chance I had to ever see him in live action. So, it was okay. I never went back and watched it again, but it was neat to see the guys in action to some degree.
But what is this like? Because obviously you get to see gameplay. People know this character,
Hmm.
and people know the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah.
And now the thing is that that's kind of a cool thing because when we start getting into recognition and understanding that you're the voice of a character,
Hmm.
it kind of creates association, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. And the weird thing about video game voices like uh, Kilowog and some of the other characters I played is when you're recording, you don't get to see the video at all. They just might have a picture of the character and the lines that need to be said, and it's a totally different thing to record those. So it helps if you know the spirit or the kind of like DC comic stuff I've known for years and kind of what the deal was with the Green Lanterns and all that. So that was a help. But you have so much less to play off of in a video game that you know it's different.
It,
But I love doing him. That was really fun.
Isn't it also different because depending on the game, some games are more narrative, some
Mhm.
games have more dialogue, some games have dialogue, but then also there's fighting games that
Yeah.
have a little bit of dialogue, but then you're in max health, you're in medium health, you're in low health, you're doing a super, you're tripped out, and then somebody enters a cheat code that makes you invincible, and that also changes your dialogue. And
Hmm.
then sometimes you're recording a punch 6 ways as
Yeah.
well. And so I don't necessarily know DC Online and this game per se, and I don't know exactly how that whole went out. But my understanding is that you wouldn't record a punch in an anime 6 different ways, for the most part.
No, well, I mean, usually like action scenes in anime, you just have whoever follow the action at the time and go with it. But because you can't see it on a game, or like if a show, I did Gecko Man, and that show hadn't even been animated yet. It was computer animated, and we didn't have any video for that, so uh, we had to record lines a few different ways, and just like you have to record more foley for fight scenes and stuff if you don't have the action. Because what if you come across something and you don't have a sound for what the character's doing? Usually you can find something, but it helps if you have a larger amount of takes to choose from and different types of takes. You know.
That's interesting. Again, I'm not a voice actor. I've no desire to come into this sector. Anime is an escape for me,
Mhm.
and I do not want to ruin my peace and my escape. As much as it would be cool to have like a major role, it would ruin anime for me. It would ruin it for me, and that means I have to find a new escape.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I, I understand myself very well. I made a conscious decision. But I digress. But I do want to get into some of the bigger roles. And one of them is I got reincarnated as a slime.
Oh yeah.
And this is kind of a fun one because I don't know if it's a main character, but it's definitely a supporting one.
Yeah,
And
yeah. He's one of the toughest ones.
so, what's like the story behind this? Because that's a wild show.
Yeah, and with the name like that, you're like, "Well, I have no idea what this is gonna be about." But he turned out to be, I find him a very, Clint Eastwood-like character because he's, kinda stoic, he's cool, he's calm, but he's a total, you know, he's really a tough dude, and so, when things get going, he, easily just dispenses with whatever's going on, and he also has a sense of humor, which is cool, which I love. Um, but just the smallest movement of his staff and people are flying sideways, and they think they can beat him easily, and he just hands their head to themselves. So he's a very very fun character. I wish there were some more episodes of that. He was a blast, and I actually get a lot of folks at conventions say, "Oh, you're him," and I go, "Yeah, yeah, he was a fun guy."
What is that like? Because obviously it's nice to be recognized, I would imagine, as a character. And we're gonna talk about I think 3 or 4 more that you're recognized for, but I would imagine that it's kind of nice because there's a lot of reasons why.
Yeah, for me, because I did so much behind the scenes starting out with the engineering and the directing and all. um, it's really rewarding to get to meet the fans because before I did more acting roles, the show would just go off into the Netherlands and you'd hope somebody liked it. And you didn't really get a lot of direct feedback, but I love meeting people at conventions and stuff because I get feedback, and they can say, "Oh yeah, I love that character and this, that, and the other." And I love visiting with people anyway. So it's been really rewarding for me personally to be able to hear somebody talk from the other side of the screen.
Did you also feel that social media has also changed that? Because now, I mean, the way I just see in general is that social media is an amazing barometer of
Mm,
everything and anything. When the anime comes out in a particular year, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram is very much, I guess, buzzing about a particular anime. I think of Attack on Titan. I think when
right.
Sailor Moon dropped, when Dragon Ball Super dropped. One Piece is a good example, which we're going to get to in that role that you have with One Piece. But I also feel that's a barometer that didn't exist 25 years ago or even 10 years ago for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, word gets out so much faster. It's almost instantaneous when people like something. And it used to be you had to do really a whole lot more marketing than you do nowadays. If you hit the right market, it can be a lot more, uh, you know, effective than if you had tried to hit thousands of wrong markets in the past and hope that somebody found it. So it has been quite a different dynamic, I think, with shows these days.
And then we're going to talk about 3, maybe 4 more animes. But
Mm.
obviously, I do want to talk about this one because you have a pretty interesting position on this one.
Oh yeah,
And you're a character in this, but more importantly, I think you've directed a bunch of it.
yeah. I directed the whole thing. Well, it was Trust, Betrayal. It's Reflection, which was gorgeous. With the music was amazing in that show. The Kyoto arc. You know. Yeah, that was a really interesting show because the TV show, the series was very different than the OVAs, and I did the OVAs. They were very serious, very heavy, and the TV show was kind of more lighthearted and wacky and stuff like that. But um, it was it was quite emotional and very I thought very deep in so many different ways, and the script was written so well by Lil Bartholomew. He really got into it himself. So while it might not be what people had expected from the TV show, the people that watched it for what it was and about his life and everything were pretty, I think, positively affected by it and became fans.
So let's actually talk about this because Rurouni Kenshin is one of those shows that's kind of legendary.
Hmm.
A lot of people around my age, a little bit, older than me, this was one of those gateway things. Toonami was a big thing showing it.
Hmm.
And so obviously, I mean, I feel it's my generation's anime to some degree.
Right.
And obviously, this just sort of dropped just recently. And so you have people like me saying, cool, this is kind of a new thing with this anime.
Mhm.
And what is that like? Because not everybody gets to direct something that is a legacy property that's kind of spinning back around. Because my generation's having kids now. And
Right.
we're
Yeah.
showing our kids what we watched, and then we're showing them the new stuff. And there you go. And so what is that like for you? Because I would imagine that it's an interesting position to be in
It
because
is. Yeah. The funny thing is I'll have behind me, I'll have a banner of all the current shows and some of the other shows kind of collage. But then I have a stand up that I put out in front of where I am usually, and that has Roni Kenshin, Guyver Bio Boosted Armor, Mazen Kaiser, Sonic, the older shows on it because it was made back when I was working there. And so I'll have a father and his kids walk up, and the kids will go, "Oh, you're Fujitora or something, or Gran Torino." But then the father's going, "Oh, wait a minute, what were you?" He's looking at the other thing, and so many times I'll talk with the kids and stuff, and then the kids will kind of want to go, and then the father, "You go on, I'll catch up with you in a minute." And he's like, "What about?" Go all the way back to Evangelion. So it's really a neat place to be, especially like with Sonic. I mean, like I said earlier, I hadn't heard from that show for years, and now people are showing it to their kids, or had watched it when they were kids, and they're coming up, and I'm like, really, it? So it's been a whole lot of fun on two different levels.
and then going to something a lot less serious.
Hmm.
Love After World Domination.
Right.
This show should not exist either. This is one of those shows that's just so weird, so entertaining. We have this guy right here,
Oh
and
yes.
Professor Big Gelato, right? And with a name and a character name like that, you're expecting one thing, and then we get another thing, and then I'm just like, I can't hate this show, but I should not be watching it, but I can't not watch it, and I'm in a conundrum.
You never know what you're gonna get. I mean, I never know what I'm gonna get as an actor. I'm coming into a show, and like more often than not, I don't know about it. And then they're like, "Well, this is what happens now." I'm like, "Okay." Nothing
There's the
surprising.
scene where he punches somebody, and it's an amazing scene, and it's just like it's like the scene of this character, and I can't explain it. I just can't. And oh, it's a brilliant show. It's like I came across it just recently, and I'm
Mhm.
like, I can't put this thing down. I just can't put this thing down.
There you go. You just never know. You might pick a long straw.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how you can describe it, but I think it is brilliant. I think it is one of your best roles.
No,
And
thank
I think it's up there, and I think it's brilliant, and it's just so bizarre, and it's so perfect in so many ways.
you.
But I do want to talk about Gran Torino too, and I'm having a hard time figuring out this photo. So maybe you could help us all.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's him launching himself off of a wall or something. Actually, I think that was artwork that was done by a fan or something. And then they told me at a convention I was at, presented these for me to sign and said, "Well, you're free to use those too." And I was like, "What a great graphic." But he has been probably one of my favorite characters to play, and it's saying a lot because there's been a lot of characters through the years. But he's tough, he's funny, he's a good teacher, he's a great fighter. He's got a massive history in the show with having trained the main guy. And when I saw him too, it was I wasn't familiar with the show when I auditioned, and I just looked at him and thought, well, he'd probably sound kind of like this. He's little and he's scrappy, and but then when he's confused at the beginning, that's probably one of my favorite parts of the show, is at the very beginning when he's walked in on laying in what looks like a pool of blood, and wakes up and goes, "I'm alive," and he's completely like, "I don't know what's going on." He's kind of like this, and then before you know it, he's tough and he's training. But I like the back and forth with the kind of absent-minded grandfather, and then all of a sudden he's this, great fighter. And I also got to do the voice for him in the video game, which doesn't happen too often with anime. You get to cross over and do that too. So that was super fun. Yeah.
So to even go further into this, obviously, finding his voice, making his voice, getting to do him. What was it, like a 6-issue arc, 6 episodes, maybe 8, with him a little bit, and he didn't have much airtime, but very pivotal, very much an impact character in My Hero. My Hero is in the top 10 shows right now, and it was a while ago as well. And so that's another one. And then the fun part about My Hero is My Hero has a lot of merch.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously tabling the economics, and I don't want to get into that, but you got a pop Funko. You got a pop Funko of your character.
And it took forever for it to come out too. I'm like, surely they're gonna have one for this guy, and finally it did, So yeah, that's been a blast having that. And the only other Funkos right now I use the Sonic the Hedgehog Funko and sign it as Old Man Owl and say, if you find the other characters, you can sign, those off too. And then I've got Ultraman Ace, who's got a really cool looking Funko Pop.
Was that the Barnes and Noble ones?
Yeah, yeah. And then
I have a set of those.
yeah, cool. Yeah, and then also I just
Ultraman's brother, the whole thing. It's great.
Yeah, in fact, Ultraman Ace was the teacher of like the main Ultraman guy. So I'm like, another teacher, And I just found at Target the other day, Metal Sonic from that one show that I did, the robot version of Sonic that he fights. So I'm like, oh, it's pretty neat having a few different things to choose from. I really wish they'd do a Fujitora, because he, with the collar and all, that'd be pretty cool looking.
I mean, we just got Jinbei from Daniel Ba, so they're getting through it. And I mean, Luffy 5th Gear / Sun God is coming too soon, so that's going to be fun. That's actually coming out in August, which is pretty far away. Pretty far away. I spent a little more money than I should have on getting my chase of that one. But I digress. But even going further into this, I mean, obviously we talk about recognizing, and obviously with Kilowog, it's a recognizable character. I think with a bunch of these, but Gran Torino is massively well known.
Yeah.
Even though he was only in it for 6 to 8 episodes, people know who this character is. And I don't know if it's because it's My Hero Academia. I don't know if it's the character. I think most of the people who are casted in that show are brilliantly casted. And that also probably helps. And it's just like, it's a massively popular show. And will savor that show, I feel, way more than anything else. So, I mean, I don't know your thoughts on that, but that's kind of mine.
Yeah, I mean, that's that's the first show that I've been in that had, and one of the only shows I know of that has had conventions named after just that show. The My Hero Con. They have them like all over the place, and that's like got to be a pretty big show to name it that in anime. So I thought that was pretty cool. I think the first one I went to here in Dallas was like there's like 30 different actors there from the show, and that's from one show, and that's pretty cool. But I've really enjoyed it. Also, My Hero is a good show to introduce people to who aren't familiar with anime, because everybody knows superheroes. It's very accessible. It's got some crazy weird stuff to it, but it's not so much so that people give up on it. It's pretty accessible, I think.
It's very much it's similar to Astro City in a lot of ways, which was a great comic back in the 90s. Very similar to that. It's also, in my opinion, and people are going to hate me when I say this, it's almost a better Tiger and Bunny in certain ways, where they took that and I think they made it better, and they did the anime better. And there's just a lot of things that work with My Hero that are great. And I think what you said is true too. It's just familiar, and familiarity is very, very helpful. And it's a gateway, but I do want to talk about One Piece since we mentioned it. You've done a lot in One Piece, and your character came in during the second half of One Piece, Fujitora, and he replaces one of the admirals, and then he kind of shows up, I think, in Dressrosa for the most part, a little bit before that, but he is a fascinating character. He can't see. He's very, very dangerous. He has a
Yeah.
devil fruit, and how did this come about?
Well, I think my first One Piece was playing Carne at the restaurant. A crazy guy with a beard and a hat and all that was, and that was a fun kind of comic relief character. Also played Zenny, which was this crazy tax collector guy on an island that had this wacky white hair and everything. That was like 1 or 2 episodes or something. But Fujitora was the best heavy hitter, obviously that I played in the series, and he's been a blast. I mean, anybody that can bring a meteor down on somebody, with a staff and yeah, here he goes, and he can't see either, and he's this gambler and everything. But the thing I think I like the best about him, besides his power, is he still tries to remain true to himself in many situations where even though he's thought of as a bad guy because he's an admiral and everything, when he comes up, and I won't want to give away too much, but when he goes up against Luffy and everything, the unexpected happens, and it's because he follows, some sort of code of his own and thinks for himself, which I think is wonderful, and with all that power and everything, he could just do whatever he wanted to, but because he can see more than one side of the coin, then it makes him to me a deeper, more interesting character. And I think he's supposed to come back with some big battle or something before too terribly long. I don't like to know beforehand. I like it to be a surprise, kind of like what I would do to the actors myself.
So let's even talk about this, because One Piece is a weird show where there are characters who come in, then they disappear for 200 episodes,
Right.
not dead, and then they come back, and then they're enemies again. They're
Yeah.
allies. They become enemies after they become allies, and they become allies after they become enemies, and then they disappear for another 100 episodes, and then they're back again. And so,
Right.
the only way I can equate One Piece is that it's like a wrestling roster. You
Yeah.
have your champion, and your champion's there for a year, and then he loses the belt. He has a few matches that take him off of the main event, and he takes 2 months off, and then he comes back and he pursues the belt again. And that's One Piece with like all the enemies. It's insane and it's amazing. And what is that like? Because it's almost like it's the gift that keeps on giving, because very few characters are dead in One Piece.
Right. Yeah, that's true. It's funny too because I get told a lot at different conventions. Well, I'm not really into One Piece, and I'm afraid to get into it because there's so many episodes. And I'm like, well, just get into it as you will. You don't have to watch them all at once. There's no way you'd have to take a year off or something. But it's very we got a lot of different characters, a lot of different places, and I think it's really even gotten more popular with the live action on Netflix because I thought that was really, really well done. And it's brought a whole group of people into the anime that probably didn't know about it before, or reinforced people who were into the anime as well. And so now I'm kind of waiting for some of my characters. I've played 4, I think, so far, to show up in the live action. So, hey, I'm that guy in the anime.
And then to go even further into this too, because I mean, One Piece is the show. I think at this point with One Piece, it is the show. You also are an admiral. So at this point, there are 20 enemies in the world government, and you are on that list. You are on that list. Unfortunately, you are on that list. You got the head of the Marines. Then you got like the 3 admirals now. You have the 5 world nobles, and they are technically the Marines / world government. And you're going to be playing a pivotal role somewhere at the end of this fight, because we're at the end of One Piece. I'm sorry if I ruined that for anybody. Spoiler alert. We are on the final saga of One Piece, guys. I'm sorry. It'll take 6 years to get there before we no, it'll take more than 6 years. You guys would do like 40 episodes a year in One Piece, I think, around that number.
Probably, yeah.
It's going to take like 12 to 15 years to finish it all out, which is good for you. It's just going to be forever. But what is that like? Because you're not playing anymore a character that just is going to disappear. Fujitora, whether he's on screen or not, is relevant now to the end of this show in some fashion.
Right.
And it's kind of a cool position to be in. And I think it's very important to know and acknowledge that your
Mhm.
voice is going to matter because there's going to be a final battle. There's going to be a final battle. And then what is it? The MRK comes out. The Mazen Kaiser final mech comes out at the end.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, he's been a really, really fun character, and like I was saying earlier, I like the depth that he has and also the power, so it's gonna be a lot of fun when he gets in the mix again, and I'm not sure which way he's gonna go, he might blast out everything, or he might, help some people out you wouldn't think he would. Who knows?
Oh, it's going to be so interesting. I mean, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. We just saw one of the other admirals do something interesting on Egghead. So this show is getting so good, and the ending to One Piece is just getting good. And I mean, I'm catching up on the manga, and I started in Fishman Island, and oh my god, it's just going to be so good.
Yeah.
But I digress. I don't want to ruin too much, but I
Well, and
do
if One Piece ends, then they can always come out with one more piece, you know?
I make the argument to people, and I'm very honest about this, where think about this, right? If One Piece is fantastic, what does One Piece the next generation look like? Because
Mm,
let's just hypothetically say that 20% of the main characters die in One Piece, but
mhm.
80% of them are around still, and we go out and we look at the next generation 20, 30, 40 years later in the world, we got all these characters to somewhat still in play, and we have a brand new adventure. I mean, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
One Piece, the next generation, will blow everything away. It'll be better than Saved by the Bell in the next generation. I promise. I promise. They tried. They tried, and I give them credit. But it was not the same. The college years were a stretch. The college years were a big stretch. But the next generation of Saved by the Bell, not the best idea. But I digress.
Now, the follow-up to Christmas Story wasn't very good either. When he grew up, it's like, this is kind of a really quiet show.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was a nice thing. Let me put it this way: if you were paying for HBO Max as you sat and you watched it, it was fine. If you were paying $15 to rent it, it wasn't good.
Yeah, rented, yeah. It's like,
There's a big difference between those two things. It's kind of like watching Elimination Chamber on Sunday with TWA. I'm paying $5, but I'm buying Peacock anyway. So it's
right.
just on. If I was paying $40 for Elimination Chamber, it's not going to be a good event. But if you're paying $5, it's not that bad. Everything is in perspective.
Still
It's
in.
kind of like Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll is $80 a year. If Crunchyroll is $80 a month, that's going to change the perspective for me massively. But I digress. But I do want to bring up the fact that you were in Stampede and Red as well, which is cool because I think people forget that being in a movie in anime is a very cool thing too. And because I think those were in movie theaters. I saw Red in the movie theater, and Red was great. And I think Stampede was in the movie theater. And what is that like? Because it is a different experience as a fan to go
Yeah,
see something in a movie theater versus watching it on Crunchyroll or watching it on Netflix in
yeah.
my house.
I had a good time as far as seeing one of the shows I've been in the theater. Uh, some friends and I got together and went and saw Shin Ultraman. So it came out in the theater for a while, and I believe I was the Japanese Prime Minister in that one. And just seeing Ultraman on the big screen was cool too. Anyway, I always seen him on TV, but then to have friends come along and seeing him on the big screen was very different. And then, we used to show different shows in Austin at the Alamo Draft House when I was working there at Monster Island, and We showed Samurai X there. We showed, oh gosh, I think we might have shown Maz and Kaiser there. Some of the bigger shows, and having people cheer during different parts and having all the actors all in the same place at the same time was a lot of fun. But it's neat to see things on the big screen when you get the chance, for sure.
No. I really enjoyed. I saw Gold in theaters. I saw Red in theaters. I saw some other stuff, and my whole thing is that it's a very different experience because I'm with my friends. I'm with a bunch of other like-minded people, and I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not distracted,
Yeah.
and I get to appreciate something. Like I would love to watch every single episode of One Piece in a theater. Like I would love it if like they did like 20 episodes, like 6 hours in a theater. I would definitely pay like $30 to do that because I think it would be a very different appreciation for what they do and appreciating anime. But we don't always get what we want. It's unfortunate. But that's that. But obviously Fujitora has gravity. And he's blind, and that's what's insane. It's such an
And
interesting.
how he became blind is kind of crazy too. It's like you did that to yourself. Okay. Another weird parallel with some of the characters I've played in shows and things with my real life. For instance, he's blind, right? Well, I think right around the time I first got that part, I had to have all these eye surgeries. And had a little sympathy for it because, it was like drying out and ripping my cornea and all kinds of fun stuff. And I got to smell my own flesh burning, which was amazing when the lasers hit the craziest thing. I don't know if you've ever had eye surgery, but
No, I don't want to.
I had to be awake, and they put the thing on me like Clockwork Orange, on the eye. And then they just said, stare straight ahead and don't move. And I'm like, okay, you're like freaking out because I don't want to mess my eye up, and they come right at you with the needle. And, what he's doing was cutting away parts of the cornea that had torn off. And then they let it heal and all this kind of mess. But anyway, it sounds like someone cutting fish. And it's your eye, and you're like, and not wanting to move and everything. And I went to work a few days later, and a guy I worked with is real into heavy metal and stuff like that. And I was telling him what I did, and he says, "Man, that's the most metal thing I've ever heard." That's crazy. Like, yeah, that was something. And then when Gran Torino was in the hospital, and this other, like after the massive fight and everything, I was actually recovering in the hospital. And like, well, let's hope nothing too terrible happens to my characters. I don't want to actually follow what they do all the time, but I could draw from personal experiences in some of these things. And thank goodness, I'm not.
I am definitely not having an eye surgery now.
And that's the weird thing, they did the cut thing and all that, and I had to do it like twice in both eyes because if it doesn't heal right, and I kept going to sleep, when I wake up, my eye would be too dry and it would rip my cornea when I open my eyes. I feel like someone stabbing you with an ice pick. But then that didn't work a few times, so they said, let's try lasers. And like, okay, whatever. So I'm in this place, and they deaden you, don't feel anything, but they start doing this laser stuff to sort of cauterize it, and you smell your flesh burning. Like, that's weird. But they ended up giving me these eye drops made from my own blood plasma, and it all cured itself.
Well, I'm glad. Now I'm genuinely freaked out. I
Give me
had a
horror stories to work on now.
I had a surgery last year on my foot, actually around the same time, and I didn't get to smell my flesh burning, but all I know is that I felt no pain in my foot for the first like 3 days. I felt pain in my Achilles tendon because they did an Achilles lengthening, and what they didn't, they say elevate your foot. What they didn't tell me is elevate your foot with your Achilles off the elevation. So I'm there, I'm good. Hour 6, I'm screaming in pain, saying this was a mistake. I throw my foot over the side of the bed, the pain dissipates. In seconds. I'm like, oh my God, this is insane.
You had that option.
Because so what it was is that every 3 hours I would just swing my foot over the bed, and I would just sort of lay on my side like this with like my freaking right foot off the bed, and I was fine. And but what was going on was essentially is that the Achilles was healing, and it couldn't take any more stress in that position because you're in a cast at 90 degrees. And so that's what happened. And it's a very, very important thing to understand. So I have great sympathy for people healing in surgery, but I will never have eye surgery now. That I will politely. I mean, my friend had laser eye surgery so that he wouldn't need glasses. What he said is like the suction cup on you, and it basically freezes your eye.
Oh, right.
Oh, basically freezes your eye. You can't mess it up. And I'm like, still not gonna do it. Still not gonna do it. Like, oh, just it would haunt me for life if I did that.
Yeah, I mean, I could wear them, but I can't put anything in my like contacts and stuff. So I just consider different glasses, different fashion options, you know.
I can't. The whole thing of contacts just freaks me out. It just freaks me out. Like
things out of your eye, not put them in. You know?
I don't want anything in my eye. I don't want anything near my eyes. I'm just like, no, thank you.
Shields. We have eye shields all the time, right?
I'm perfectly fine with my glasses. If I get to sleep at night, not worrying about it, because I'll fall asleep with like a contact in my eye and it'll be a problem. And I'm just like, yeah, you know what is? I will suffer with glasses and I will be perfectly fine. But I digress. I am not ripping out my eyes to be Fujitora anytime soon. Anytime soon. It's the point of this conversation for those who are still watching. About eye surgery and the Roma One Piece. So I have to ask. I don't know how far the Netflix show is going to get, but who do you want to play Fujitora if we get that far?
Man, that's a good question.
Because I could tell you who I wanted to play Mihawk.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted Johnny Depp badly for Mihawk.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah,
but we have somebody else now, but that's fine. He's doing a great job.
Fujitora is tough because you got to find somebody big, you know, to begin with. I'd do some looking around and see who would fit the bill. I think
I think the cast is pretty good right now. I think they did a great job with the 5.
Amazing, you know, and I hadn't heard of most of the people, which is even cooler because, again, they went for the right instrument and not necessarily the most famous one, you know. And that way, you know, you're watching a show and you're not saying, well, here's, you know, here's, you know, this guy doing this character and he's really this other guy. Instead, you kind of identify that person with the character more, I think.
Who all these people, when this show is done, are going to be mega superstars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's cool about the One Piece Netflix position. And it is brilliant that Netflix did it. It is brilliant. And it's probably the best live action anime that's been built so far.
I think so. I mean, I think my wife loves it and she's not really into anime at all, but she absolutely loved the show, you know. And I think it's a huge win just for being a good show, whether it's anime or not. You know, people are just totally enjoying it. And if they brought the creator in on it and let him have some say so, I think made a big difference as well.
I think it's brilliant. I think Netflix is super smart. I think Netflix is about to destroy everybody in 2025. If we get One Piece season 2 and Monday Night Raw on Netflix, the game's over. Which is what it's looking like. WWE signed a deal with Netflix for 5 years with renewal of 5 for $5.5 billion for Monday Night Raw, which is insane. But live on Netflix's platform.
Yeah, well, that'll be a first for them, won't it?
They did some live stuff before. They did the Chris Rock special live, which was cool. Okay. They've done some golf stuff live. They've done, I think, a Formula One thing, but they haven't done anything massive live. And this is a game changer, and it's going to be amazing because guess what happens after you watch Monday Night Raw? You're on platform, and if One Piece season 2 is coming out, if you put it right after Monday Night Raw, everybody's going to watch it. Everybody's going to watch it, and it's going to be great. And then what they need to do is they need to create the One Piece podcast live every week on Netflix. That's all they need to do, and they will win the game. They'll win the game. And they're redoing One Piece, the animation too, which is insane.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah, and they even have a Ultraman series on there too, which is not too bad. It's kind of computer generated, quasi newish animation looking, and I watched some of it, and I'm like, that's kind of cool. So they've got some people choosing some cool titles.
Yeah, oh, it's great. They're a great company, and they are winning the war, in a lot of ways. But speaking about that, and I do want to transition out of One Piece, even though I love One Piece. I mean, Crocodile, Mihawk, everybody. I'm going through the whole cast. I'm going through the whole cast of One Piece, slowly
Right.
but surely. It will get done in the next 10 years. It's gonna be fantastic. Nico Robin is hard to track down. Um, Stephanie, is it Stephanie Young that plays Nico Robin? I think.
I'm not the greatest with names, so yeah, I'd have to look it up.
Some of them are easier to know than others. Like Sonny Strait, I think plays
Oh,
Usopp.
yeah.
Eric Vale Sanji, I know that.
Mhm,
Chris Sabat is Zoro. Christian Lucy is Nami. Colleen Clickenbeard is Luffy.
mhm.
Brina is Chopper. Patrick Stewart is Frankie. Ian Sinclair is Brooke. I know my stuff, everybody.
You get it?
Yeah. Because oh my god, just Brina Palencia. She's such a nice person. Such a nice person. But I digress. I am curious though where you think the future of anime is going, both on a fan base and even on a voice level base. Because I feel, and this is my thoughts, I'm curious what you think, is that COVID changed anime, and I think it made it better.
I can see that. I mean, it did introduce a lot more people to it because people had the time to search out different things they might not have seen before. Um, I think as long as engaging stories come out and uh, the quality is there, that people will watch anime the same way they watch live action shows. You know, um, it's its own genre kind of, but it's also encompasses all the other genres because you've got horror, action, comedy, and everything else. So I think as long as the stories keep coming and it's interesting that it'll stay fairly popular. And I don't know how much the animation style changed, but it's branched out in a lot of different directions since I started working on them.
Did
So
you also do you also feel that the anime industry on the business side has also become very interesting? Because obviously Sony bought a lot of Funimation, and they bought Crunchyroll, and then I think somebody else bought HD Live, and then obviously other players are entering the space. And
mm,
from my understanding, Crunchyroll slash Sony wants to break into India because that's an untapped market for them. And India has a lot of people in it. A lot of people are living in India. And I say that not to be facetious, but I think it's very interesting because I think there's real money now in anime. When you spend $1.3 billion to
mm,
basically take the anime company in Texas into your network, which is what Sony did essentially,
mhm.
there's real money where I think 10 years ago, anime, if you said 30 years ago anime was going to be a $10 billion business, you'd be like, no. I mean, you'd be no, of course not. And I think it's at that stage where there's real money. I think there's real interest, and I think it's fascinating because I think it's finally in a healthy place.
Yeah, yeah, and the way things have progressed with streaming and everything, used to be back when I started, everything hinged on how many VHSs you sold or how many DVDs you sold, and then when pirating became a huge problem, then that really ate into a lot of companies' bottom line, and some of them couldn't afford to stay in the game because it was really all dependent on that one product, for the most part. But now there's so many different venues and so many different revenue streams and ideas out there that I think it creates more possibilities for growth and for things to evolve into something even more, you know, lucrative.
Yeah, and then I think that there's just even more revenue streams for creators right now. I
Mhm.
think there's been a shift in how business is done. And I think also there is more demand for things out there. And I think that obviously cons, I think, are bigger than ever now. I think COVID has also changed that to some degree. And I think that that's also been very interesting, where I think the whole idea and that's shifted around too. But we don't have to dive into too much of that. But unless you want to, you're more than welcome to speak about anything you want to speak about. But
I'm the voice guy, not the business guy. So,
I mean, I guess the point is that I think that it is easier than ever to make a living doing this. And I think there's more tools that allow people to make a living doing this. And I think that's where things are going, where 10 years ago, I would not be able to do what I do in my eBay business, in my podcast, and doing the fact that I work remote 4 days a week. That didn't exist 10 years ago. And my quality of life is 1,000 times better. And I don't think it's just me. I don't think it's just me. I think it's all of society has gotten to a point where there's more convenience and there's more technology, which allows for a better idealistic position you could be in. So
yeah, if you're lucky enough to have a job that a lot is on the computer or something of that sort, then things have definitely changed. I mean, I'm an audiovisual designer for a company that does football stadiums and everything else nationwide and worldwide now. And during COVID, we kept working because it was all on computer anyway. So that was a real blessing. If you're in a service industry or something, you were in big trouble because it depended on, face-to-face interaction and in person. But it has definitely opened up for technical things, a lot of more possibilities from working from home and everything. I've saved a lot of money on tolls and gas, and plus I can wake up and just start working instead of having to get to work and spend, a couple of hours every day doing that, So although it still is nice to go in and have interaction with people. So I usually work a few days a week from home anyway.
I like being in on my Monday. I see people, and then every other week I'm in on Thursday. But I could tell you the days that I'm not in my office, I get an extra 2 hours of sleep. And oh my God, it's so nice.
Not driving. Right.
It's when you live, an hour away from your job. It's not just the hour drive. It's the idea that because I could roll out of bed 15 minutes before I have to log into my computer, I just grab a Pop-Tart, and then I'm at my kitchen table, which is my office, and there you go. And it's so nice because it's like an hour, 2 hours extra sleep. And oh my God, I'm so productive on those days. I am so productive.
Very important question. What is the best flavor Pop-Tart?
Oh, see, this is tricky, right? This is tricky. It depends on the season, right? So in the winter, I'm like a wild berry, or like they have sometimes cereal flavored ones. So like I just tried the Applejack Pop-Tarts, not great. I'm disappointed. I'm gonna write them a letter. I'm very disappointed in it. It wasn't Applejacky. I'm sorry.
Winter s'mores are good. The s'mores Pop-Tarts are good.
S'mores are good. Birthday cake is good. Chocolate sundae is good. But then they have the limited edition ones, like the Jolly Rancher, Green Jolly Rancher. Oh, that was like ice candy. But what I did, so what you have to do, because you know what you're supposed to do with Pop-Tarts, right? You're supposed to make a Pop-Tart ice cream sandwich.
Oh.
So what you have to do is you have to like get the ice cream in there, and you kind of have to like taper it off at the sides, and then you freeze it, right? But so then you freeze it, and you gotta get really cold, and then you gotta like take a knife, like a bread knife, and you gotta cut it in half. And then you leave it out there for like 2 minutes because it gets unfrozen a little bit, and then it's amazing. It's amazing. Somebody taught it to me. I'm like, this is a really bad idea. And then I had it. I'm like, you fucking wizard. Like, and it's like, I told you. I'm like, you're right. And then, but certain combinations don't work. Like there's certain ones that don't work. But And some of the frost ones are not good. So like I have to use like a plain strawberry
The
one.
plains are better for different stuff. Like I bet you if you took a couple of the cinnamon ones without the frosting, that'd be pretty good. Or like on vanilla ice cream. Yeah.
That'd be good. It's great. Like the whole concept is just brilliant. And oh, it's not good for you. You can't do this every night for dessert. It'd be bad because it takes time to prep it. But if you're having like a party, like the Super Bowl party, this is like the dessert you bring out, but you don't tell anybody you did it. And then because everybody's like, "What the fuck's this?" And it was like, "Oh, I get it. I get it." But like you could get really creative. Like you could put chocolate syrup on the inside of it, then put the ice cream on, and then taper it off on the sides, and it looks clean and it looks professional. Oh, it's great. The whole thing is just ridiculous. But you got to put the effort in, guys. You got to put the effort in. I'm sorry.
That's it.
But getting back to the question, yeah, no, it's a wild berry. Like in the spring is good for me. The s'mores are good. Birthday cake is always good. But like sometimes like when it's really cold out, like I kind of just like in like the Thanksgiving, like I want like a pumpkin-y like one is good. But like I can have the pumpkin one like all the time. But like this Applejack thing that I had, I'm so upset. I went to Target and I was so excited. And I was thought, oh man, Apple Jacks, I love that cereal. And I'm just disappointed. I'm gonna write them a letter. I'm really, really disappointed.
I could see it a little chemically or something.
Wait, what'd you say? What'd you say?
It's a little chemically or something, right? The Applejack one.
Yeah, I know. It just wasn't Applejacky. It tasted. It tasted like not Apple Jacks.
It wasn't Apple Jacks. It was just jacked. Right?
Exactly. That's the problem. See, this is the whole problem. I came in with decent expectations and they were not met. And I feel gypped. Because I could have went with the chocolate sundae Pop-Tarts instead, and I didn't. And I knew what I was getting, and I was taking a risk, and I realized very efficiently that maybe I made a bad call.
Well, at least you lived to tell the story.
That is true, and it is my new obligation to warn everybody that the Applejack Pop-Tarts are not good for you. And again, I'm writing the letter to the people who make Pop-Tarts. Is it Kellogg's that makes Pop-Tarts? Whoever it is, they're going to get a letter. I'm going to put a stamp on it. I'm going to send it to their CEO and have it certified. There's going to have to be a signature for it. And watch this.
Make it rhyme, though. Everything has to rhyme.
I'll write it in Shakespearean language, just to, in like the Tempe tempo. Oh, it'll be great.
Dr. Susie, yeah, it'd be kind of fun.
It'll be great. It'll be great. And then what you'll do is that I'll pick words. There'll be a secret message at the start of it, and it'll go down saying this is not a good Pop-Tart, and I'll have to figure out how to do it. Oh, it'll be great. I guarantee you, they're probably like, nobody has ever written a letter about these Apple Jacks. And watch this, they're gonna be like, we're gonna institute some systematic changes in our processes. So all I'm saying is that it'd be really funny if I got a response back. Is all I'm saying. It's kind of like when somebody sued, what was it, Pepsi Cola? Where's my jet?
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
But I digress. But what do you think is the favorite and the best Pop-Tart flavor?
Oh, I didn't even know there were that many.
But 90. It's crazy.
S'mores in the winter, and then I like the without icing, the what was I talking about earlier? The cinnamon. I just really like cinnamon with a lot of butter on it. It's really good.
So this is the real question, and I'll let you promote yourself after I ask it. There's actually two questions. So I don't want to out you at your job, but are you designing the new Swift Stadium? I mean the Chiefs. Yeah, see, you get the joke, right?
Yeah. No, not that one. But there's at least I'm not the only guy working.
I mean, what has to happen is that we need a place for the wedding, and they have to sell tickets. I had real money on Travis Kelce proposing to Taylor Swift, and what I mean by real money is I had $10, and my bookie gave me like a 1 to 2,000 odds. So for every dollar, I put $10, I would have. If he did, I would have won 20 grand.
Wow.
He didn't do it, but I figured people were like, Andrew, what in your right mind makes you think that's going to happen? I said, you got to realize the odds. If
Yeah.
I'm right, I'm a genius. If I'm wrong, I lost $10.
Yeah.
$10 is only $10. That's like my Starbucks for the week
Mm.
versus 20 grand over here. All he has to do is win and propose. It's not hard. They don't need a wedding. He just needs a proposal. That's all he needs. He didn't do it, but that's all right. We all make mistakes.
You got to take chances.
That's what I figured. I figured people were like, what in your right mind makes you think that's going to happen, Andrew? But yeah, but getting back to Pop-Tarts, because we need to figure this out. Do you warm up your Pop-Tarts?
Oh yeah, they're always toasted. I mean, I can eat them raw, but toasted, the inside gets a little more gooey or whatever. It changes the.
Did you put it in a toaster, or do you put it in the microwave?
Oh, no, I put it in a toaster. Yeah, I mean that's how it is in the commercials. It's supposed to be in a toaster. You're breaking the rules.
I might be breaking the rules, but that's all right. Since you got to break rules, yeah. I
Put
put
it in the air fryer.
So I won't put the frosted ones in the toaster, and I won't put them in the I put in the microwave because it melts the frosting. But like the raw ones, I don't mind putting that one in a microwave. But I'll put a little butter, and then it like kind of creates like a butter pull off. But like
Oh,
you
yeah.
have 2 plates on it, and it's nice. And then I watch it. It's like making eggs in the microwave. It's so exciting. It just gets me so excited. And then I'm like, is it gonna explode? And then you gotta like you realize, like, oh snap, the eggs are fully cooked, but they're gonna come out of the thing. I gotta calm down, and then you put it back in, then it's gonna come out again. Oh, it's amazing. It's like a game to me. But I digress. I digress. Which people are learning way too much about my food habits now.
Well, I was in the food show, so there you go.
But I do want to give you a chance to self-promote yourself before I get you and me both in trouble because we probably pissed off the people who make Pop-Tarts to some degree. I mean, they clearly know how I feel. They clearly know how I feel. I don't want to be banned from buying Pop-Tarts. I hate one of your products, one SKU, only one. Everything else is fine. I was massively disappointed, and I'm very upset, as people can tell. But I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. Obviously, where can people find you, bother you, see you at a convention, check out what you're doing, keep up with you, all that stuff, animes that you can promote, all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, let's see. I've got March 22nd. I'll be in Las Vegas for the Anime Vegas at the convention center there. That's going to be a lot of fun. There'll be a lot of people from, One Piece, My Hero, and a lot of other shows. So I'm looking forward to that big time. Let's see, Director Man Charlie on Facebook is my Facebook page. And I think it's also my Instagram page. No, that's Charlie Man Anime. There you go. CHARLIE, Charlie Man Anime at Instagram.com. And then, there's another few shows coming up. I'm waiting on like them to say exactly when and where it's going to be this year because they had to readjust some things for Anime Next and a few other shows. And then many times I just get Anime Enthusiasts United get me shows here and there, and they usually give me a call every few times a month and say here's something coming up later on. But things kind of had a lull after Christmas. I was pretty busy before Christmas, and just the Vegas thing. And there's another one coming up. Just one moment, I'll give you the name.
Anime Next is a good show. I've been there a bunch.
Yeah, it looked really good.
It's Atlantic City, right?
That's where it had been before. When I went, it was in New Jersey, and they had a great turnout. But
in Somerset, Jersey, in Somerset.
Yeah, people didn't. Apparently, a lot of fans didn't like having to drive out there. They wanted someplace just more fun because it was kind of just. It was a big convention center, but it wasn't really close to anything. So I think they were trying to find another venue that was people got more excited about. So
Atlantic City is a fun place. I like Atlantic City. It's by
Yeah.
Callaway, Jersey, and it's very cool. I haven't been to Anime Next in a while. I used to be on the. I'm in Connecticut, and I used to live in New York, and then I moved down to DC. I did Otakon and AwesomeCon, and then I never did KatsuCon, even though that's in the same neighborhood. But yeah, no, it's used to do Anime Next all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Like those guys were great too. They were really fun to work with. Oh, FarleyCon, here we go. FarleyCon in East Ridge, Tennessee. They're gonna have some pretty cool comic book people there too. And that's get you a date here. August 3rd and 4th. So it's a little ways away, but that's being sponsored by Anime Enthusiasts. I can't wait to actually meet the people I've been working with. They've sent me all these places like, I'd like to meet you in person. So that'll be fun. And then, yeah, man, just keep your eye on my Instagram and my Facebook. I always put up as soon as I find out something, I throw it up on those and put little videos and stuff.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to keep saying it. You have to support people you like and you want to see more what they do. And you have to support anime. And the way you do that is that, A, you have to watch anime, preferably legally. Preferably legally. You have to read manga legally. You have to buy merchandise legally. And you have to, support your voice actors. And the best way to do that is actually watching shows legally. And then when they're at cons, going to cons, seeing them, going to panels that they host. Go saying hi, go getting signatures, all that stuff, getting your merch signed, buying their prints, everything and anything in between. And then furthermore, let's say that a voice actor isn't coming, you're in New York, I'm not expecting anybody to go to Tennessee. Not because I don't like Tennessee. Tennessee is a very cool place. People from Tennessee are very nice, but obviously request that voice actor to come to a con. And then if they're in a con that's 50 miles away from you, and you want to go see them, that's when you should go. But let's say that they're not coming into your neck of the woods for a while. You could still follow them on social media. You could engage with them on social media. You could interact. You could like what they're doing. You could share it out. You could obviously say, hey, I really like so-and-so. Oh my God, did you just hear his voice in this anime? That stuff, because that goes a long way. And that's very good.
Yeah. And like I say, I like going all over the place these days. So if you want to see me, let your local con people know, and they can either contact me through Facebook or Instagram or Anime Enthusiasts United. And more often than not, if my schedule permits, I'll come out and have some fun.
And so that's what I say. And nothing is too little. Social media follow is not that big of a deal. And you'd be surprised. You might learn a lot of fun stuff. You might have a good time. But enough about that, because I'm going to promote myself really quickly. And then I'm going to give you the final word in 1 second. But obviously, I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter /X, Pop Anime Comics on Instagram, Pop Anime Comics on Facebook, Pop Anime Comics on YouTube. Please subscribe. I cannot promise you on YouTube that you will get smarter with me, but I can assure you that you will be entertained with the amount of interview content that I have. You can get lost in a trap of nothingness, but you will end with a smile. I promise. You're not going to get smarter. You might, but you will be entertained. I am Pop Anime Comics on TikTok, and I am also Pop Anime Comics Collectibles on eBay. And yes, so if you're looking for comics and collectibles, come shop with us on eBay. That is my cute little elf, and she's adorable. So that's my mascot. But yeah, so if you're looking for really rare books and really cool stuff, and speaking about my hero, because I like dropping this, I have all 15 of these books that are in hollow foil in my store. So yeah, I carry books like that, and I carry anime themed books, and there's other stuff that I carry. So chances are, if you're looking for something really funky or out there, I got you covered for it. And I try to be as reasonable as I possibly can on eBay. So you will find really cool stuff in my eBay store, everybody. So just keep that in mind. And that's everything that I got. And yeah, I'm going to give you the final word.
I'll let my friends know about you and this. Yeah, I'm a big comic guy too, man. I've got all these comics that I collected over the years when I was a kid, and like from the 70s and stuff. I've got the original Dark Knight comics, the individual ones. Yeah, you got the Green Lantern.
Green Lantern power battery. A 1-to-1 Green Lantern power battery. Everybody, I'm a super nerd.
It's been a great, a lot of fun getting to know you, Andrew, and thanks for having me on the show. And I always like talking to fans and and people who are into the shows that I work on, and other things too. I mean, I like talking to people, and thanks for including me on this this really nicely framed. I like the frame going around here. It's pretty cool. Kind of reminds me of a video game. The lightning and everything. It's cool. Thank you, and everybody, contact me on Facebook or Instagram, and come out and see me, and let me know that you saw me on here, or whatever it is you're interested in, and I'll talk with you till the cows come out. So, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm the lucky one. I'm the lucky one because nobody has to do anything for me, and I get to live kind of the dream too. So
Yeah.
I want to speak to people, voice actors, and everybody in between, and I get to speak to some of the top people in the world, and I'm the lucky one, and I would never imagine I'd be in this position. So I greatly appreciate it. I said the same thing to John Swayze, same thing to John Vermillion, and a bunch of other people who have voiced some of my favorite characters in anime. So I am the lucky one. And I realize that not everybody gets to do this and not everybody wants to do this. So trust me when I tell you that I am beyond grateful and beyond appreciative of your time and coming on and
Thank
talking
you.
about this. And I know a bunch of my friends are going to be like, who are big One Piece fans, they're going to be stoked that this happened. And a bunch of my hero fans are going to be stoked. So thank you very much. And I don't think I could have said that any better myself with what you said. And guys, go support anime. And I think that is a wrap, everybody.